Hello, I'm Stuart McNiell with the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum. Today we're going to take a little tour of the Captain's Bridge of the Intrepid. This is the space where the captain made all the decisions about where the Intrepid was going and how to get there. This particular area is known as the pilot's house. It contains all of the instruments necessary to steer the Intrepid. At the center of the pilot's house is the helmsman's wheel. Here, the helmsman would actually turn this wheel in order to steer the Intrepid, and we have instruments to let him know which direction he's turning the rudder, a rudder angle indicator behind that, the ship's magnetic compass right behind that, and two gyro compass repeaters to give you information about heading. Now, if all of this sounds a little redundant, just remember that it's very important to have multiple instruments telling you similar information to make sure that you're doing exactly what you think you're doing. Now this piece of equipment right here is really interesting. It is called the engine order telegraph, and it's actually a piece of communications equipment. It allowed the bridge personnel to tell the engineers in the engine room to set the Intrepid's engine to a specific speed. What you do is adjust these levers to the desired speed, and a similar machine in the engine room would change to reflect your setting. The engineers could then adjust their own machine to let the bridge personnel know that they'd received the order. And while we're over here, it might be important to know that so much of this is made out of brass. Now, brass looks beautiful, but it serves a really important purpose. The majority of the metals on board the Intrepid are either steel or brass. Steel is really strong, but it has a problem. It rusts. In order to prevent rust, you have to paint every inch of steel. But objects that are going to be handled a lot or move, well, painting's just not practical, and that's where brass comes in. Brass isn't tough enough to do all the jobs that steel does, but it doesn't rust. And that's why pieces like the levers for the engine order telegraph, the helmsman's wheel, or these talk tubes are made out of brass. Now if we look out here, we can see the captain's chair through this door. From there, the captain had an unobstructed view of flight deck operations as well as the open ocean. He even had special equipment that allowed him to communicate with pretty much any part of the ship. Now, one important piece of equipment that you will find on the Intrepid's captain's chair that you won't find on modern aircraft carriers is an ashtray. Now, as we come over here, we can look down this corridor and see the Captaincy Cabin. This tiny cabin is where the Intrepid's captain would be spending a lot of time. See, being the captain of an aircraft carrier like the Intrepid is incredibly demanding, and the captain could be called on any hour, day or night. This cabin is going to provide the captain with a few hours rest here and there. The captain did, however, have more spacious accommodations a few decks down on the gallery deck. And that wraps it up for our tour today. Thank you so much for joining me. Come on down to the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum and you can see the Captain's Bridge for yourself, as well as many other historic spaces. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Stuart McNiell.